All right, here we have Pirki Avot, the ethics of the fathers. Like I say, there's a lot of Jewish communities that they read Pirki Avot, these what's called the 6 chapters of the of Mishnah, which deal with personality improvement, and attitude toward life, and inspiration to learn Torah and to do commandments. That's what these are. And they learn it from Passover until Rosh Hashanah. Chabad also does the same thing. So we're going to, a lot of stop. There's some that they stop on Shavuot. Now they have Shavuot. But we're going to continue. Okay, so if you remember, for the last few weeks, the previous weeks, we finished the first chapter. There's 18 Mishnahs in the first chapter, and we finished them all. Now it goes more or less in chronological order, starting with Moses receiving the Torah from Sinai, giving it to Joshua, and they gave it over to the elders. Those were the what we call the judges, the shoftim, and they gave it to the prophets, and they gave it to the people of the great assembly, and then they gave it over to these different pairs of Jews that lead Hillel, Shammai, etc. And then they gave it over to great rabbis afterwards. And now we're getting in already. This is after the temple was destroyed. We have Rebbe Omer. Rebbe was Rebbe Yehuda HaNasi. Was also named Rebbeinu HaKodesh. The Gemara says that this was like, I don't know, 50, something like that, years after the destruction of the temple. The Gemara says that he was a candidate for Mashiach. He had all the qualities of Mashiach, of the Mashiach. He knew the whole Torah. He had the power to influence all the Jews, to bring them back to Judaism. And he was the one that arranged the Mishnah. Nobody was like him in his generation. Rabbeinu, he was a direct descendant of King David also. That's another one of the criteria of Mashiach. So let's take a little bit of advice from his. Rebbe Omer, Rebbe said, great man. Let's see what he has to tell us. What is a straight path that all people should choose? Right? Yeah. How long do we have to live? Right? How long do you have to live? You're going to live 120 years? Okay, so to 120 years, you can waste it also. Get on the wrong direction. Person get on the wrong direction. He thinks I got to make money. I have to be popular. I have to have pleasure. I have to be successful. Who says not? What do we care? Life is but a dream. Do whatever you want to. Just, there's no meaning. There's no anything. Other people say, no, the whole thing is to go to heaven. What do I care about this world for? I'm going to go to heaven, get eternal bliss. No, maybe that's right. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi says, listen, there's a lot of options. The world is very confusing. But I'm going to give you my advice. What is the straight path that a person should take? Kol shi teferes losa, a thing which is good to the person, v'tiferes lo min adam, and good to him from others. Okay, what's this mean? Let's have a look and see. He's going to say 2 other things also, but let's not get confused. Let's just take this first one. Rambam says, what's the straight way? Which is the way that a person should do? The Rambam. There's the few of the, right, Moses by Maimon. Here's the Rebbe Avadia Bar Tanura. What is the straight way that a person should conduct himself? What type of good things that a person should do? And we're going to talk about this later on in the 4th chapter. These are, generally speaking, says the Rambam, Maimonides, right? Moses ben Maimon, son of Maimon. He said, generally speaking, a person is supposed to be balanced. Because then a person will have a very, very important thing, and that is minago tov in bnei adam. Then he won't be too selfish. He'll deal with other people, but also will be able to deal with himself. He won't be, right, overtaken by the world. He'll always be weighing his way in life. Not too much spiritual, not too much physical, not too much charity, not too much stinginess, not too much. We'll see what he'll want to give charity, but to the proper people and etc. So what is good to him, and those he benefits, and also others benefit. Also, don't be selfish. Let's see what the Bartanura says. A person should choose a way in life, Rav Ovadia of Bartanura, that should be good, and other people should also benefit from him. And this will be when a person goes in a way, like the Rambam said, in a balanced way. He won't be to one of two at his extremes. If a person is too stingy, then it's good for him. He makes money, he keeps his money, but other people don't get anything from him. If the person, though, he gives away too much money, then other people, they'll enjoy what he has, but he's going to eventually he'll be poor. He'll have to be, to collect charity himself. So what should he do? He should be generous. That's what he means. Generous is in the middle between stingy and to be, there's a word for it. Pizur means to give away too much, to be too open. There's a good word for it, and it just slipped my mind. Okay. Squanderer. To squander your money. Right? Some people, they squander their money. They want to make an impression. They give away. I knew somebody like that. He just wanted to make a good impression, so he gave big amounts of charity, and eventually, of course, he didn't have any charity to give, and he himself became. But this is a good thing to him, that he keeps his money, and he doesn't give away, squander more than he has to. But on the other hand, it's good for other people because he's generous, right? The people will praise him. They say that he gives he gives charity the way he should. And this is so it is with all the other types of, and there's a middle pattern, that middle path. Okay, next. Anything which is good to the one who does it and good to others as well. Next teaching. You should be careful in little commandments like in the severe commandments. Right? Little commandments, let's say customs, as the same as you are in big commandments, like keeping Shabbat. Or why? You don't know what is the reward of the commandments. You should you should consider what you lose by doing a commandment. Namely, you have to spend money. Also, you lose time. Sometimes everybody's doing something and you can't. You have to learn Torah. But the reward is great. You're doing what's true. What about the reward of doing a sin? Doing a sin, you feel good. Makes you feel good. It gives you a good feeling. You feel wild, loose. But on the other hand, it's going against God. You're losing your own integrity. You're losing your own, dignity. And also it says you should look at three things and you won't come to do a sin. You should know what's above you. You should know what's above you. Three things. What are the three things? Three things that are above you. There's an eye that sees, an ear that hears, and everything all of your deeds are written in a book. Okay, let's just go up a little bit. I don't want to take too much time, which I'm already taking too much time, but let's do it anyway. You have to be careful with a little mitzvah like a big commandment. Let's say, for instance, giving charity, right? A poor person comes up to you and says, can I have some charity? You say, you say to yourself, you don't say to him, get lost, you don't need the money. I'm not going to give you anything. No, you should give him something. Give him a dime. Give him a quarter. It's such a big deal. Or say a nice word to him. Say, listen, I'm sorry, I don't have it now. I'll give later. Say something nice, right? Say something nice. What about a big commandment? What about a big commandment? Keeping Shabbos. Ooh, that's a big one, right? That's a big one. Says the Rebbe, listen, we are not God. We don't understand what exactly is worthwhile to God. It could be that the way you do a commandment is more valuable than the commandment itself. It could be that making this person feel good by giving a quarter or something like that, or by you making yourself feel good by not giving them a quarter, right? could be a better thing or a worse thing than, let's say, you keep Shabbat and you have a bunch of guests. You don't know how God weighs things out. So what's the answer? Don't care about it. It's not your business. Your business is you should be careful with all the commandments. If it comes from God, it's precious. Right? It comes from God, it's precious. And there are some things that are very simple. Having a beard, right? Everyone agrees that cutting your beard off does not help you to serve God. No one is helped to serve God. In rare cases, the person has to be, who knows, he works in the Vatican or something like that. I don't know what it is. And he saves people's lives. I don't know. He can't have a beard. Very, very rare. But nevertheless, big deal. There's all sorts of ways you can get around it, and you don't have to this. Putting on tzitzis. If you don't have a four-cornered garment, that's not such a big deal. Says, you don't know. You have no idea what is a big commandment and what is a small commandment. These are commandments of God. These are not just commandments of Judaism. So therefore, you have to be careful and happy with to do a small commandment, a seemingly insignificant one, just like you are to do a very, very big, important one. And also you should be very careful, right? Zihir means you have to be very careful. Again, we said you should consider what you stand to gain by doing a commandment, and that sometimes this little suffering that you have is worthwhile. And you should consider what you lose by doing a sin. Sometimes the loss is immeasurable, right? It seems like a really fun thing to do at the time, but in the end, it's wrong. And it says, look at 3 things that you won't come to do a sin, and maybe we'll go and do this over again, but it says, you have to understand, very, very important, says Rebbe, you're not alone. And being not alone means on good for the side of, it's always for your good. Always for your good. But you have to know, number 1, you're not alone. And number 2, you are not the king of the universe. Right? I have to always remind myself, this world is not my world. This world is God's world. He's creating it. He's creating me. He's very good. He's infinitely good. He's creating me. He's keeping me alive. He's giving me eyes and ears. And that is amazing. But on the other hand, it's not a free trip. It's not a free trip. You get everything, but there's laws. There's laws. There's rules. Don't think that you're the boss of the world. You're not creating yourself. You're not enlivening yourself. You're not giving yourself. But on the other hand, you also do not set the rules. Your eyes are not your eyes, and your ears are not your ears. They belong to the creator of the universe. But amazingly, God, for whatever reason it is unfathomable. He gave us the ability to choose to make war against him and to ignore him. So the Rebbe says, Rabbi Yehuda Anasi is saying, you should know 3 things and you won't go off the track. Number 1, God is watching you. Everything you do, God is watching. True, God is infinitely kind, and God doesn't punish people anymore, right, like he used to. There's no fire that comes from heaven. But on the other hand, it's like, I know people that they're not religious, but they smoke cigarette on Shabbos, and all of a sudden they take the cigarette and they throw it on, they take a kippah and put it on their head. What happened? My grandfather's coming out of the synagogue. I don't want him to see me. Well, his grandfather knows what is it, karate or something. He's going to do something. No, it's just, I'm ashamed. God is so good, and God is watching me. How can I do something against God? He's so infinitely good. There's an eye that's watching. Number 2, ozen shamas. Everything that you say, in fact, everything that you think, God is aware of it. Good, okay, like I say, God makes excuses for you, and God is very lenient, and God doesn't punish people anymore. But on the other hand, you have to realize that, it's just because of God's tremendous mercy that he lets you think whatever you want and say whatever you want and do whatever you want. But come on, a little bit of respect, a little bit of, gratitude. You're in God's house. It's not your world. And that's what it says. And not only that, everything that you did is written down in a book. God is not going to forget what you did. The things that you did are not forgotten. So if you want to correct your ways, so you have to do extra good in order to compensate for the not such good things that you did in the past. As King David said, Chatati negdi tamid, my sin is before me always. Have a good day with Mashiach. Now, God willing, tomorrow, 8:15, we continue Lukuti Torah.